Beautiful. Okay. Morning. Welcome to the November 28th, 2023 meeting of the Woods Hole, Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket Steamship Authority. As we get underway here, I'd like to inform everyone that Sean Driscoll, the authority's communication director, is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. Is there anyone else making an audio recording of today's meeting? If so, please identify yourself. And if you are joining virtually, please press the raise your hand icon on the Zoom dashboard, or if you're joining by phone, by pressing *9 on your keypad. And when you are recognized, please state your name for the record.
Louisa Hofstadter, Vineyard Gazette.
Thank you.
And Gisanu MV Times.
Thank you.
James Klingersmith, Dukes County Commissioners.
Thank you.
Jason Graziadei, Nantucket Current.
Thank you, Jason.
Noelle Antonin, Falmouth Enterprise.
Thank you.
Nicole Manfredi, Senator Susan Moran's office.
Thank you. That's probably it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we got everybody. Pursuant to section 20 of chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, as amended, board member Maura Tierney is participating remotely in today's meeting because her physical attendance today would be unreasonably difficult. Board member Tierney is participating in the meeting by the Zoom video conferencing app, and we will all be clearly audible to her as she will be to us. As a result of Ms. Tierney's remote participation in this meeting, any and all votes taken today shall be by roll call vote. Our first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the authority's October 24, 2023 meeting in public session. Do we have a motion on that?
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any comments? Yes, sir, Mr. Briel.
I would just wanted to point out that I was present by Zoom and I did not get it recorded.
Okay, duly noted. Hearing no further comments, we'll take a roll call vote on this. All in favor?
Jeffrey, I.
Okay.
Jones, aye.
Randy, aye.
Kearney abstain.
Thank you. Our next item is the Port Council's report on their November 7th, 2023 meeting. Mr. Cahill from the Port Council is here.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Mr. Salito couldn't make it today. Keeping up with my reputation being the chair of the Port Council before, I'll keep this brief. We got the same agenda that you have today for the most part. No vote were taken, but there's two things I want to just bring up. Is one, unfortunately, we heard the news that Bud Brawl will not be lasting to the beyond the end of the year. So I hope Hyannis is on the lookout for somebody new. And we're
We're at a complete loss.
yeah.
I gotta take them.
Great having you, Bob, we did. And then lastly is, I don't know when you want to take this up, but if you could consider allowing me to attend the executive session today.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Is that your complete report? Is that your complete report?
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much, sir. The general manager's report. Mr. Davis, good morning.
Good morning, everyone, and hope everyone had an enjoyable Thanksgiving. Before we start, however, I'll point out the staff members that are in the room. In addition to myself and Sean Driscoll, we have Terrence Keneally, Mark Higgins, Allison Fletcher. We have Ian Nichols, Bridget Sullivan, Kurt Van Riper, and Stephen Coleman, and Janice Kennetic. I think that covers the staff. The first item here is the MV Sankaty. So I'd like to begin by addressing some of the insinuations that were reported in the media regarding the perception that the Steamship Authority concealed or withheld the results of the investigation of the July 27th incident involving the MV Sankaty from the board, the Port Council, and from the public. Let me be perfectly clear. Those claims could not be further from the truth. In fact, the Steamship Authority has released more than 4 hours of video and hundreds of pages of investigation documents to several media outlets upon request, and addressed the results of the investigation and the corrective actions in detail at public meetings. At the Steamship Authority, we're committed to transparency, yet we also have a responsibility to maintain employee confidentiality. Confidential reporting of potential issues, hazards, and incidents is the foundation of the safety quality management system. Without the ability of our employees to report incidents in a confidential manner, the SQMS will fail. We believe that the foundation of the system would be greatly compromised through the public release of the unredacted employee statements regarding the incidents, and that is why they were initially withheld from the media. As a result of the thorough investigation, the root cause of the untethering of the MV Sankaty was identified. The root cause remains the same as previously reported, namely the failure of the crew and the captain to properly secure the vessel in accordance with the existing operating procedures. Corrective training measures have been implemented in the authority's learning management system to prevent this type of isolated incident from happening again. And I look forward to, and I welcome the opportunity to have a constructive dialogue with the board to discuss future protocols and managing public records requests and associated communications. And you'll see that the next item on the agenda is also regarding public records requests. So.
Questions from the board? Comments?
Mr. Rainey, may I make a comment?
Yep, go ahead.
I just want to be perfectly clear that the comment that the board was misled does not apply to me at all. I never felt misled in any manner whatsoever by our board and felt perfectly satisfied with the management actions that were taken. So, you know, I think we go down a tricky road when we start talking to the newspaper. And unless we can speak for all 5 of us, I don't think anybody should be, any of our board members should be saying that we're misled or we're speaking as a group when in fact we are not. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jeffrey.
I'll defer to Mr. Malcolm.
Mr. Malcolm.
Certainly. Number one, I have an obligation to represent Martha's Vineyard. And I am appointed by the Martha's Vineyard, the Dukes County Commission. And as I had said at a recent meeting where I was called and spent an hour and a half with the Dukes County Commissioners over the Sankaty incident, I was not aware, nor do I believe that our Port Council members were aware that for 3 days prior to the Sankaty breaking loose, the authority was aware that the boat was not secured properly. I am being very careful with the terms, and I just want to speak the terms that I use. I really want to speak to fact. As a board member, I rely upon information that I receive from management to exercise my duties in accordance with Article 1 of what members do, which is to have charge of and supervise management, operation, and direction of business and affairs of the authority. To do that, I have for the past 4 years and will continue to rely upon the information that I get from management. My own personal experience with this was that I had been told at a number of meetings that lines slipped, and that's why the lines were improperly fastened and the boat drifted away in Woods Hole. I never was told that we were aware of this for 3 days prior. That's a fact. The other fact that I would mention is that I learned about the 3 days awareness from the newspaper. And I learned about that when I got a text from our court council member, Mr. Toledo, as I was walking into Martha's Vineyard Bank meeting, who said, "Have you seen this article in the Times?" And I said, "No, I haven't." I walked into the meeting, and the first person I saw in this Martha's Vineyard Bank meeting was Ron Rappaport, who's a former board member here. And the second person I ran into was Wayne Lamson. And the third person who I sat down with was the publisher of the Gazette. All three of those people and virtually everyone else at the meeting was asking me about this incident. And the 3-day advance knowledge and the fact that this was in the paper, and I hadn't even read about it or knew about it. To the comment, and this I believe is a fact, that we withheld that we did not make information available because of wanting to comply with SQMS system, and we want people to be able to come forward and speak. I think that that's one way of looking at it. I think another way of looking at it is people, and I talk a lot to the people who work on the boats, people will speak if they think they're getting listened to and something happens. And that's been my experience. If people aren't listened to and things don't happen, then they stop talking. So my appointing authority had a meeting. They sent a letter to our board. They asked our board to take action. And I guess what I would ask my fellow board members is, in response to that request, what action should we consider taking? And when and how should we take that action? Thank you.
I'm first of all, I'm in complete agreement with Mr. Malcolm. My appointing authority as well is very concerned about the incident as well as the transparency afterwards with the investigation. In terms of the incident itself, we are exceptionally lucky that no one was hurt, killed, or any real property damage outside of the Steamship Authority. And we're talking about the height of summer in Great Harbor. This could have been an absolute disaster. And, you know, this is my home port. So I can't get over how angry I still am about the fact that we knew about this issue for 3 days. According to my looking through the timeline that is now provided to the board, based upon the investigation, it appears we had at least 8 opportunities over those 3 days, 6 opportunities on the actual day the vessel left the slip to go out and correct the lines. Starting at 3 hours and 21 minutes before the Sankaty drifted out, when the master of the MV Nantucket noticed that at 13:38. And I will say the one positive thing is I think a lot of credit should be given to the master of the MV Nantucket and his persistence in trying to report this problem. And the fact of the matter is, if you think confidentiality is the core to the SQMS, I think it's more listening to the people who are reporting it. I'm surprised that the MV Nantucket master kept on bothering reporting it when nothing was occurring to fix the problem that he or she kept on noticing. The other issue I will say is I do feel completely misled. Just like Mr. Malcolm, there was no mention that we knew this problem, that procedures weren't being followed for 3 days prior to the Sankaty leaving the slip. Nor that it was reported multiple times before it actually left the slip that it was not properly tied up. I was led to believe that this was a crew mistake on the at the one single time upon them leaving the vessel during the time. And to the extent that you want to keep this information confidential to the public, that doesn't apply to the board. You could have easily, one, redacted the employee name information from the board, if you felt so compelled to do so, to fully describe the situation and the severity of that situation. Or we could have met in executive session to discuss it. We discuss personnel issues all the time in the executive session. So I feel completely misled. And then the final issue, with all due respect to the other board members, like Mr. Malcolm, I represent the town of Falmouth. Well, I have a fiduciary duty overall to the Steamship Authority. I am appointed by the Falmouth Select Board to represent their interests. And I make certain that when I speak to the press and the media, that I am speaking in terms of my own opinion. I think if you look back at my quotes, I actually made it pretty clear that I was speaking as to my opinion and what actions I thought was necessary to take, and not on behalf of the board. I think every board member should have that freedom to speak on behalf of their towns and their appointing authority. We're not here to apologize for the Steamship Authority. We're here to govern the Steamship Authority, and this board needs to do that. To that extent, in response to the Dukes County Commission request from Mr. Malcolm, I do believe that we need to meet as a board to discuss this incident and its impact on the management of the Steamship Authority and what actions we need to take. I don't necessarily know if a joint meeting is the time to do it next month, but I do think we need to put it on the agenda as soon as our January meeting. I'll defer to general counsel if that discussion should be an executive session or public or bifurcated, but I do think we need to discuss that in our January meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
It's really a complicated maze here. And first of all, to the event itself, I'm in the boat business, and boats come in all the time with this problem, that problem, and the other things. And I just take it, basically okay, and fix it. That's it. Here, when I look at what happened in its simplicity, a boat, flipped its hawsers and drifted into the Woods Hole dock. It was retrieved and it was put back into service. It didn't even raise the eyebrows of the Coast Guard to come down and inspect it before they released it. So I look at that, the simplicity of this thing. It's unfortunate, it's unacceptable, but I don't go to the what could have happened, what might have happened scenarios that I'm here floating around. But people could have been killed, they could have been, I look at what did happen and not what could have happened. So that's me personally, that's just the way I look at it. I see that I too was upset to read after the fact and finding out the full facts after the facts when they were being talked about and investigated. And somehow we need to get the board into the front line and not on the receiving line from the papers of what happens. There's nothing I hate worse than reading something in the paper that I should have known. So I can just say that as something that needs to be corrected. I think solving all the problems for this thing here today at this meeting is going to be impossible. There's a lot of threads here. And each one of them just needs to be investigated and come up with a policy of the board. But I do believe management has probably already done that. And I agree with their responses to this. And I'm glad they did respond to it. The only thing they left out is us. But now we're all on the same page. So I'm not letting anybody off the hook, but I'm not a headhunter. You know, we've got a dedicated crew. We've got, when Bob joined the Steamship Authority, I guess it was something like 17?
86. 86.
Yes, of course. I always get those wrong. Just maybe stage. But anyways, I mean, he was handed a bag of bolts. You know, senior management was retiring. He had to go, you know, find, you know, employees. We had a fast ferry that took a shortcut over the Hyannisport breakwater. This is, I think, was 17. And
Wayne was general manager.
and then we had the problems that we had with a boat that went in for service and came out with a bigger checklist than it went in with. There was soft groundings with the Woods hole. We had to go replace the check valves and the props of the Woods hole, and nobody knew what a check valve was in a variable pitch propeller. They came back with new updated models, so we know that the problems that we had with that was you know, factory induced. We had a 40-year-old generator on one of the ships that I can't say blew up, but I think it started a fire or something like this. I mean, there's a whole litany of things that happen, and to say nothing about the fact of Bob and how he handled COVID and how he's handled everything, you know, up to this date here. He's done a remarkable job, in my opinion. And I think what we need to do is we need to set up, well, we're already trying to upgrade all our systems here with the MMS and the quality and safety standards. We're already trying that. And if you look at what we have for mechanical failures this year up to date, it's something like what 35.35% or something like that. Washington State Ferry, which is supposedly the gold mark, they have about 2% failures from mechanical things, and their goal is 1%. Ours less than there, and we have half the number of boats. But I think we're doing a remarkable job of keeping up with this. But this is not a mechanical failure, it's human. And so we need to continue to go with these courses and refreshers, and you can't. No captain or crew member can take anything for granted. I mean, I can see in some ways the laissez-faire thing is, well, okay, we'll get it. When's the last time a boat, slipped off its bollards and became adrift? Only one I know was the INO back, and I don't even tell you the year because I'll probably get it wrong. But anyways, that was twofold. Number one, it was at the new terminal repair center, and it had their cleats. There wasn't enough cleats, to tie the boats properly. And when they did tie it properly, they didn't tie it up. There was way too much slack in the lines, and it was a huge, extremely windy at night. And you can see in videos of the boats popping up and down, but it was definitely the fact that they didn't tie it tight enough, and I watched the line snap 1, 2, 3, 4, now 6. But for this particular incident, the incident doesn't rate high on the necessity to go much further than correct what we have. And actually we're correcting what we have, because now we know more than what we did before, and through the press. So I've said enough.
Thank you for that. My personal take on this is I agree with Ms. Tierney and I agree with Mr. Jones. I respectfully disagree with Mr. Malkin and Mr. Jeffrey. I never felt misled. Had I felt misled, I would have approached Bob. I would have contacted the port captain's office. I would have contacted anyone in senior management to find out what was going on. I would not have waited to read about it in some other fashion. I would have pursued answers on my own, but I did not do that because I didn't feel misled at all. I felt it was a personnel matter. I felt that if anything, the port captain's office should have maybe made a stronger effort to assess the situation and correct it. But we're learning from this, we're moving on, and I think that's where it stands. So having said that, let's move on.
Sure.
Sure.
Thank you. I'm sure that you and Ms. Kearney and the other board members will recall 4 years ago when I was taken to task in school by the board as a new member for comments that I made at a Dukes County Commission meeting. And I learned from that. And I took over the past 4 years, I've been very careful not to say anything about opinions and simply deal with fact. And the fact for me, when confronted with this situation, I was relying on what I had been told that a line slip. I relied on that. And that's why I didn't know anything other than that until the newspaper article came out. The day after I learned that, Bob met with myself and Joe Solito and John Cahill at the Martha's Vineyard Airport. He was on the island. And we talked about that issue and the fact that we weren't aware of these things from what we had been told, specifically the 3-day lapse. Which is why I didn't ask any other questions, because I was relying on the information that I got from the general manager. But the fact is, as I said to the Duke County Commission, we have a lot of people who work here, who work very hard at what they do. We respect that. But as a board member, I need to feel confident that I'm receiving all the information as pertains to the management of the Steamship Authority. And Bob has asked me and has made people available to me to talk to. Then when I've had questions, I talk to them. I spend a lot of time with folks who work on the boats or work on the shore. And to me, it's simply a matter of, now that we've had a situation, how best do we deal with it? The issues that I have, that I've talked about, I've raised in front of the board before about performance review, in terms of operational issues, in terms of micromanagement, and wanting to help this become a better organization. So having said that, go back to my original question, which is, my appointing authority has asked us to have a meeting to deal with this issue. How would my fellow board members like to proceed?
Well, I think that's probably a discussion for another meeting. I don't see how any emergency action at this point. I don't know what that would entail. I don't know what the idea behind that is. I don't know what that means. I don't know, who would be involved in that. So those are things that would probably have to come out from management, from staff, from whoever. But that is not something that I'm certainly not prepared to discuss right now.
I think that's entirely appropriate. Could we schedule something at our January meeting to give us time to reflect and see how to proceed?
I would personally, I'm fine with that. I don't know about the rest of the board, but I'm not chairman then, so I don't know. Mr. Jones has a comment.
Yeah, last time I was chairman, one of the things that I wanted to do with the board is I wanted to have more discussion. And I was only successful in having one Saturday meeting for to discuss matters like this. This takes more than a formal board meeting when you sit there and you're couching your words, you're making sure you're not saying anything wrong, like getting dates wrong and stuff like that. It's better that you can sit down and talk, and there is a parliamentary procedure to stop a meeting for the discussion of a particular issue. And that in those, if you follow, the rules of Robert's rules or something like that, no minutes were taken, are supposed to be taken, etc. But that does not happen here. And it didn't happen the way I wanted it to, for an informal conversation to work out the things. But a smaller board or whatever, however it is, but you got to have it so that you can converse. And you can't be throwing darts and things. It's for the better or the good, what we're looking for. And I think there's a lot that really, in some ways, does not need to be said. It's known, it's just you forget the practice. So that's reinforcement of what should be done. And I'll talk about, when you mentioned you came on board and got down a couple of inches and stuff, or some comments in the paper, I will say that, and I think the board was pretty specific that it does more to tear us apart than it does helpful. But each member has to make its own mind up at that. I do not get into that type of thing with the press. If they ask a question, I'll ask it, answer it to the best of my ability, but I don't put personal comments in there. So for whatever that is, that's my stand. I'd like to have another meeting, a more informal meeting to develop these things, and maybe the chairman next year, that we could incorporate other things that just need discussion. Sometimes that's all it needs is discussion. So, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm in favor of having a meeting in January. I think we need to discuss this. As I said, I think the board needs to govern, and we need to, at least the public needs to see us governing, and that would be having that kind of frank discussion about and setting policy and evaluating the general manager's performance. I'd note that when the perception is that the board isn't governing, that's when the Massachusetts legislature gets interested in the activities of the board. And if we want to keep local control and management of the authority, I think we need to have a public display of our governance. As we saw like last time with the HMS report, we had bills trying to come out to legislate the hiring of a chief operating officer and term limits for authority members. And I would just note, we have a person from Senator Moran's office today, watching the meeting. So I think it's in the best interest of this board to move forward with such a meeting so that we make a public statement that we are governing authority. Thank
you. Okay, any more on this? Okay, next item.
Management of public records requests. So over the years, the public records requests have been handled on a staff level. Requests that are received by the public records officers are reviewed to determine the scope of what the request is. From this review, the appropriate individuals, department or departments are informed of what documents or data that they're required to produce. So over the past 5 years, the authority received 2023. So far, we've received 40 such requests. 2022, there was 43. 2021 was only 22. 2020 was 38, and 2019 was 41. Didn't go back any farther than that. So effective immediately, you may see that there's a new protocols for reporting the public records request, and the associated communications to the board and port councils has been instituted in the diligent board's platform used for to provide the members with the meeting materials. A new folder has been added labeled public records requests. So you'll have access to those whenever we receive one. We'll be placing it in that folder. The 2023 requests to date have been added to that folder. And as I said, when new records are requested, we'll file those, and the staff will update the folder, and the diligent platform will notify the board that there's new materials in that folder. So.
Excellent.
Quick question. Will that include the authority's response to that request as well as the diligent?
It'll include we're planning on doing the request, and in our cover page on the response. Sometimes some of these end up being kind of voluminous documents,
Sure.
And if the board feels that they want to see that, then all they have to do.
I'm really more interested in the response. My concern is not being aware when a response is filed by the authority denying the request or denying it in part, or if an appeal is filed. If an appeal is filed, will that also be updated in diligent?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, man. But is that in diligent now?
It was added to diligent yesterday.
Last night, yes, it should be there. If not, I'll.
No.
Okay, I'll help you find it afterwards. I just did it last night. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is update on the website. So Kurt Van Riper's in the back. If I fill in anything, so Sean has the. Okay, so currently there's a beta site that's available internally that we've been working from. They've been working on the internal security scans that's been completed, and fixing some of the bugs that the staff has identified. We're still waiting for the response from Apple and Google on the mobile app. A little bit longer than what we anticipated, or what we were informed by the Stellar Elements that it'd be a 1 to 2 week. It's been over a month at this point. But in the meantime, we continue to work on internal testing and identifying any bugs. With regards to the launch, we have some site content that we're revising, as well as there's 4 main. Here we go. Sorry, four main issues that we have to address right now: the ability to change vehicles on a reservation, the high-speed guest reservations, the ability to pay for a balance due, and the ability to cancel an excursion reservation. So of those, we consider these are potential showstoppers until we get those resolved, and we're hopeful that they'll be able to do so. The staff and Stellar Elements are still working on the development of a load test for the site and the monitoring procedures. Again, going forward, we're still working on the credit cards have not been signed off on yet. We have apparently the programmer didn't initially involved that we'd be using Discover cards and the like, so that we have some additional testing that's being done there. So at this point, and we did talk with iMark, our current website provider, and they're going to be retained through March of 2024 as a backup We anticipate that if we get over these last couple of hurdles, that we'd be looking at a middle or early half of December to be able to go live. If not, we feel that it's not going to be doing our customers a service by switching over the holidays and shortly before the Headstart and general openings for the season. So we have a short window now in order to go live. Otherwise, we'd be recommending to hold off until February before we do that.
Given that, how's that going to impact Headstart?
The current site is available. We've already talked with the current programmers on some changes that you'll see later on in the meeting of what we want to do regarding the openings for Headstart, and they're confident that they can make those. If they haven't already, I don't know. They have made the changes. They have made the changes already. So.
Thank you.
Where are we in terms of budget on the project?
So again, to date, we're at about 2.8 million for them. We have not had any because we have an outstanding balance of $67,000 for Stellar Elements at this point.
And just kind of, I know when we get to reporting out the procurement under $50,000, one was listed for purchase order number 28640. There's Stellar Elements for $29,000. Was that related to the work on the website, or?
That's the ongoing support.
That's ongoing support for the program. So that's it falls under professional services.
So it's not part of this overall budget reporting out?
No.
There were screenshots in the presentation on it.
Yeah, sorry. So the screenshots, this is showing, what the, when you sign into the app, whether you put in your email or account or a username and password, it'll come up with, you'll be able to identify which route is your preference. On there, I'll also show you upcoming reservations that you may have in your history already. And then as you go into making trip selections, you'll walk through a similar. I think the board for council have been at this point the public information sessions that we had as well to kind of walk through what the steps are, similar to what we have now, but hopefully we've improved the flow a little bit, the presentation as well.
I'd just say, since having attended the session West History, which was handled quite well, questions got answered, lots of bugs were sorted out. People were pretty pleased with the improvements. The concern I have besides the budget, of course, is I thought this was the week we were going to launch.
Yes, that was the anticipation, but as I said, there's been the credit card has been a sticking point at this point, and a couple of these other these changes, and some of them they don't happen that often, in which someone changes a vehicle from one vehicle to another that causes it to be a different rate. But that does happen, and obviously with the high-speed reservations, a good number of our customers just go in here as a guest.
Yeah, this is the first time I've heard February is the day.
Well, since we will be doing the open, if we don't open it early enough in December, we feel that it'd be a disservice to our customers to be opening it right before Headstart and the general opening, and that occurs in January. So at that point, if we don't hit this December date, we'll be looking at a February date.
Yeah.
Well, and plus people are learning a new website and, trying to book reservations at the last minute with a new website. Yeah, I mean, makes sense.
Just like we had last year.
Very much.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
Okay, next, Staff wants to just provide a brief update on the progress of the IT assessments that's being performed by Gibbous. Again, just the basic project description as we've had in the past. The activities to date. Keep going. So here we are. Well, it's actually should be in October and November. They've been working on these items. There is a draft of the assessments that they've done and was forwarded to the board and for council back after the last board meeting.
I haven't received that yet.
That was, I think, November 2nd, I think was the date I sent it. So
We'll provide it after the meeting. We'll give it to you.
and the next,
I didn't get it.
maybe
I'll check. Go ahead.
it may be related to the group email function that it may be held in a different folder. So
Thank you.
all right, next. So upcoming here, Gibbous plans on providing a draft report at the December board meeting. As we're going through at this point, we've been part of the development here has been to assess reservation systems that are out there in use in other ferry operators. We already started having a couple demonstrations of a couple different systems. We have more planned. And the idea being is to assess what the abilities of other systems that are out there in order to make an informed decision as to which direction we need to be going regarding our reservation system for the future. So they'll be presenting that at the December meeting. I don't think we'll necessarily have all the demonstrations done at that point, but we should have enough that we should be able to have a good sense as to what the availability is. And then at the January meeting, they'll be presenting their final recommendations. And I think we've spent 175,000 so far out of 245,000, so 71% of it has been. With that, if you have any questions, myself or Stephen would be happy to answer.
Questions from the board?
No. Just looking forward to seeing the draft report, where I can find it in whatever folder it's in.
All right, so next item we have, I think, is the Aquinnah and Barnstable, and there's Mark on there. Yes.
Well, good morning, everyone from Alabama Shipyard, and I'll give you an update on the MV Aquinnah and the MV Barnstable. Sean, can you get the slideshow up? So I think after a number of months of preparatory work, we've begun with the, as you can see, this photo here is we have a track burner, which is showing the ring cut around the MV Barnstable. Next slide, please. So in preparatory to lift the 24-foot mid-body section out of it, we had to cut some additional material away from the mid-body and for the lifting part of this. Next slide, please. So we have here is the gantry crane from Alabama Shipyard rigged up for the lifting of the mid-body out of the MV Barnstable. Next slide. So as you can see, both ring cuts are done, and this is the beginning of the lift to remove that section. Next slide. It shows a section, this weighs 98 long tons and lifted with the crane in one lift. Next slide. So as you can see, it's the cut is complete, lifted out of the parallel mid body, and it's moved to a location away from the two sections. Next slide. So this is probably this is an interesting picture to me. It shows the like a midship section of the parallel mid body removed, and happy to report this is also completed on the MV Aquinnah. We have both side by side, and we're beginning this month of bringing the SPMTs in, the self-propelled modular transporters, where we'll put under the stern section to bring forward to marry up the new sections together of the vessel. So next slide, please. So where we have two vessels, we've got a 13.7 million was the contract value for the Barnstable. We have 354,000 in change orders. And for the Aquinnah, we have 13.7 million in the contract and have 280,000 and 734 in change orders. And this is mostly differential having to do with work done on the bow thrusters, which are complete now. Any questions, anyone?
I got a quick off the wall question here. I noticed the cutout is extremely clean. Were the steel sandblasted inside and out and then coated inside and out
No, we brought in the shipyard brought in an outside firm with transits so when the cut is made and we bring the two sections together, it's a single cut, and that cut is really important because it has to do everything with the parallel attachments, so the vessel is straight, to put it in a very simplistic answer. That's very important, so that but the cut is really clean. They spent, a considerable amount of time in preparation, and the track that was used for the cut was extremely clean. So when we bring these back together, so we'll have that 240-foot section, length overall is now reduced by 24 feet. So that's so important for that to be straight, for the boat goes straight, to say it very simplistic.
Thank you, Mark. My question actually was about the cleanliness of the hull and the void. I would expect opening up a void like that, you'd see a lot more rust and things like that.
No, these vessels are in excellent condition. Matter of fact, in the structural steel survey just completed by Coast Guard, we didn't have any steel renewal at all to do because they're in perfect condition.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Malcolm.
Yeah. Mark, are you getting the response you need from the shipyard in terms of staffing and activity and work days?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Mr. Malcolm?
All right. Are you getting the response that you need from the shipyard in terms of staffing and amount of work and time scheduling?
Yes, they initially, in some previous reporting, the vessel being somewhat behind schedule. Right. They've increased by adding 3 subcontractors to work on other various sections, including the subdivision bulkheads. We've seen an increase of a reduction of schedule of 16 days for the Aquinnah and another 7 days for the Barnstable. I suspect that by January we'll be back on the delivery schedule of April 7th for the MV Barnstable and April 30th for the Aquinnah.
Right. Thank you.
That was one of the items that we want to stress to the shipyard and the importance of maintaining the schedule on this.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think one of the other things on the financials is that we're still waiting on the credit on the change order on the original option to of $105,000 on the 14-foot cut versus the 24-foot cuts. The Sankaty mark.
Okay. Okay, the Sankaty is presently at Thames Shipyard in New London, Connecticut. Next slide, please. So this is the vessel sandblasted in first coat, second coats of anti-corrosive on the bottom. Top coat is complete. Next slide, please. Okay, we took both shafts down as we normally do to our contractor in New Jersey. We actually found the starboard shaft was cracked, and we replaced that with our shore-based spares. And the vessels and the shafts have been reinstalled, and the vessel is due to undock very soon, according to right on schedule. Next slide, please. We also found for preparatory, we went in and this is a trim ballast tank. We went in, and this shows the tank blasted to commercial blast prior to coatings. Next slide, please. So the highlights of the docking, hull coatings, trim tank coatings, propulsion shaft repairs and bearing replacements, structural steel renewals, blasting coating the hull and superstructure. Next slide. Okay, so we have a contract value of $754,193. In the contract, we have 39,545 in total change orders and credits, and we're right now under budget at 714,648. And I believe that we have a couple more things to come in, but we'll be at or below budget for this project.
Oh.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Not hearing any questions.
So if I may, I think one of the things that's on that, the credits that were received were primarily because of the lack of need to be replacing some hull plate, and I think that's a testament to the measures that Mark has been trying to do here in terms of preservation, in terms of instead of replacement, that the blasting and the coatings to make sure we have a good base there on the coatings to keep these vessels operating.
Is Mark, before Mark leaves, I have a question. Mark, there's a big crane down in Vineyard Haven now, and I understand that we had some delays and cancellations in Woods Hole as well due to cables and some pins. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on? I know my friend Nat Lowell constantly talks to me about greasing things sufficiently. Do we have stuff wearing out, or what's going on?
Well, we have a preventive maintenance schedule on the cables that we replace on a regular basis. If you probably remember, on one of the bridges this summer, we actually had a failed shaft, which we replaced in kind. One of the things that we're going to be doing we found that there's been an engineering change in all the shivs on the Woods Hole bridges of increased diameter. As we go forward, we're going to be incorporating these changes as we go into the overhauls of the bridges that we have coming up in the next year. But we believe that after seeing this, that the engineering, we're going to upgrade in both size and diameter of those shafts. So that they're a stainless steel shaft. They should not have been fracturing as they have.
Right.
So we've incorporated them in the new changes.
Thank you.
I think Mark's been traveling too, so down to Alabama. So we did have one of the pins fail on the transfer bridge in Vineyard Haven. It's being replaced today.
Yeah, there's an enormous crane there.
Yeah.
And well done on the mobilization to get that down quickly. Thank you.
All right, next. Bridget here.
Bridget's here.
I'll have Bridget present the next one.
Morning, everyone. Morning.
So today, on behalf of our team, I will provide an update regarding the last training and development fair, formerly the safety fair. As you know, the fair spans 2 weeks, during which we hosted multiple trainings, ranging from safety-related, OSHA 10, to professional development, customer service. All trainings instructor led by either internal team members or they were outsourced. Of the records that have been entered into LMS, I can tell you that we've trained over 139 employees during this two-week period. And in the spring, we trained approximately 167. And I suspect that once all records have been entered, our fall participation will exceed that of the spring. And during this time, we approximately 617 trainings were completed as well. Next slide, please. To increase our participation availability, we hosted trainings in multiple locations from reservations to our terminals, vessel repair, and this very room. You may be wondering whose beautiful smiles you're seeing on the screen here. And what we have at the top is a picture of one of our training groups, all giving us a thumbs up because they enjoyed it just that much. We also have Mimic, who supported our training efforts. There are workers' comp. And finally, we have our very own director of security who volunteered his time as a trainer. Next slide, please. Multiple surveys were conducted for participants to trainers and location managers where trainings were held. You may ask about buy-in. My response will be this. One of the objectives of maintaining a healthy SQMS system is continuous improvement. We've accomplished this by obtaining feedback, analyzing feedback, and implementing change where needed, which is exactly what we're doing. The very first question in the sample of survey questions is an example of that. What trainings would you like to see? We encourage our teams to communicate opportunities for improvement, to improve our fair overall, and provide the training that they too feel they need. Next slide, please. Which brings us to, was it a success? Survey results show that 91% of the participants felt that the fair was either very valuable or extremely valuable. That's up 2% from the spring, which felt it was only 89% success. But more importantly, it's 55% of the participants felt that it was extremely important, which is actually up 12% from the spring. I can confidently say that we're headed in the right direction, and we've already begun planning for the spring fair. Next slide, please. Lastly, I'd like to give special thanks and recognition to our team members whose contributions really made the fair a huge success. And instead of taking up too much of your time, I won't go down the list, but instead, I'll call out what we all know is most important, food. And as they say, it's the gateway to great training and development. So I'd like to thank Monica and our executive management team for providing us with the food options that we have that made it such a success. And lastly, I'd like to add that December 5th will be my 1-year anniversary here at the Steamship Authority, to which I take great pride in. And I'd like to thank Bob, Terrence, and Janice for providing me the opportunity to be part of this team. And I'd also like to thank our team as a whole, who have been nothing but supportive, dedicated, and encouraging with our SQMS process. And in the words of Helen Keller, alone we can do so little, and together so much. Thank you, and any questions?
Questions? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job.
As Brenda indicated, we'll be continuing to do these on a twice-a-year basis in the spring and the fall. So, all right. Next, we have renewal for the lunch counter contract with Sodexo Live, which does Centerplate. And Terrence, if you want to.
Yeah. So, really quickly, back in June, we discussed with the board the potential for a 5-year renewal with Sodexo, which is Centerplate, or on the Centerplate. That was approved and recommended by the Port Council and set forth a draft contract at that time. Since that time, Sodexo came back to us and presented some different financial terms, essentially focusing on concession fees and the percentages that are assigned to the various transactions that they have for food and alcohol. With primarily everything else, from a financial standpoint, being consistent with what we previously had with a guaranteed minimum, with escalations $10,000 per year. And that was briefed again back in June, and
So essentially what we're presenting today is the modified concession fee schedule. Again, it's slightly reduced, but also slightly expanded from what we had in the spring. But again, with not to speak to the bottom lines of it, but essentially it's just an opportunity to expand those fees. The other element that was also added recently was consideration for capital funding, capital fund. Because there's again another labor intensive equipment, and the fact that we have vending machines going in. We should have expanded vending in the toll terminal, for example. We have vending going on in vessels, so there's a lot of capital investment there. We're also conscious of the fact that the equipment needs to be repaired. So we have 1% on gross sales being committed to that. And again, it's just kind of I'm taking a scalpel to it a little bit to really address the concerns that the contract presents. Currently, right now, I'm waiting to get some feedback from the draft that I submitted to them. I haven't got that back. I think one of the hiccups there was the Thanksgiving holiday. But essentially what we're looking for the board to, or recommend to the board today is an adoption of those new concession fees, which we think are consistent with what we previously had. Again, I don't see any drop off from the previous revenues from that program. In fact, I think it's a better program because of the concerns about replacing the equipment and so forth. You know, all the other terms from the agreement that we presented in May, in June, excuse me, would be consistent with that. So as far as the insurance program and so forth. And I know that Dave Wolverlander's here from Centerplate. He's been with Centerplate, I won't say how long, but Dave's been above us for, well, say decades. I think the partnership has been a good one. I know that folks, we frequently get inquiries about where's the food on boats and at the terminals. And again, like all things, we've had some hiccups, you know, the COVID challenges that we've had over the years and staffing issues. But I think, and hopefully with the numbers that I presented in the staff summary, I think we're overcoming those. I think this year has been particularly reflective of past experience before COVID, I should say. And then the other element is the minimum guarantee. They want to tie the minimum guarantee to the number of passengers that we have every year, and we've agreed on a number of 2.6 million. We're presenting that. And again, looking back at the numbers included in the staff summary, it seems that that's a reasonable number. Again, I think we were at 2.5 through October.
So the past 25 years, there's only been 1 year where we were on to 2.6, and it was 2020.
So going forward, I think it's something that we should do. But again, I don't have the final draft contract for your review yet because I'm still waiting to get that back from their council. So, but I don't anticipate any substantive changes to what we presented back in June, other than the financial on the concession. Excuse me, confession.
I don't know whether the board would like to hear from Mr. Overlander.
Sure, let's hear what you guys say.
I'd like to start off by thanking the community, staff, and management of the Steamship, members of the Board Council, members of the Board of Governors for, by the way, 10 years ago was 30th anniversary of being here. And I was here, I didn't quite make opening day, but I was otherwise in another part of the country, but I was here a few days later. I want to thank you for for history. We have enjoyed being here. I myself live in Falmouth. My son grew up here, and we've had a great relationship with members of the Steamship Authority and everyone associated with it. If we have blips, everyone has blips along the way. You know, that's what we do. My job, the way I see it, is to make your job easier. You know, I don't try not to bring too much to the insurance. It's our job to fix whatever problems we have. Although it is my job also to know what's going on and to see if there's any perspective. So we, as Terry said, I think we're pretty much there on the contract, the financials are solid, everyone's agreed with those principles. Which is absolutely, the likes of Terrence have to work out, but there's nothing that's in the way. I actually had an audience with the CEO, and the CFO, and the executive vice president last night, and saying, listen, is everybody okay with this in principle? And again, our legal counsel just needs to just kind of clean up some language. Other than that, we're set to go for another 5, hopefully, 10 years.
Sounds good.
Have any questions?
Questions from the board? No. Do we have a motion to approve, perhaps?
No.
Do we have a second?
Sorry.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor by roll call?
Jeffrey, I.
Jones, aye. Malcolm, aye.
Randy, aye.
Tierney, aye.
It's approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the next item. Yeah, just. Anybody?
Yeah, John Ron.
Yeah. So next item, back at the end of October, we received a correspondence from 41 North offshore of the desire to renew the expiring license agreement for barge service to Nantucket for an additional three years, so through December 2026. As part of that proposal, 41 North is also seeking to amend that contract to include service to Martha's Vineyard along the same lines as what they've done for Nantucket. Staff does have some concerns currently, only because of the amount of activity that's going into the Vineyard Haven terminal with C Street. And we do have some upcoming maintenance that has to be done over at the Vineyard Haven terminal, which will make one slip, take one slip out of service for a period of time. But those are things that we feel that we could work out with 41 North and going forward. This is on a demand service is what Jonah is proposing. I don't know whether you'd like to speak to your requests at this point or.
Absolutely. Good morning, board management.
Morning.
Opportunity to speak with you this morning. So we're wrapping up our second year here of offering or call it year and a half of offering service to Nantucket. We've seen steady demand for the service, but more so than Nantucket, we've seen a pretty steady increase or demand in requests for Martha's Vineyard. It's still a tricky service to run both to Nantucket and to the Vineyard. Operationally, it's not as simple as coming out of Woods Hole. There's some economic factors that come into play as well, but we do think there's an opportunity here that would benefit both freight traffic looking to get to the Vineyard, continue to benefit traffic going to Nantucket, and kind of supplement what the Steamship Authority is already providing, which is the genesis of our request to add the Vineyard here and to continue the Nantucket service. That being said, we appreciate your all's consideration for it, and hopeful that we can put both services in place.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, question. When you were talking about the Nantucket services with us last time, the concern that you had was that the service was not very consistent, that it was pretty much, there simply wasn't a consistent demand. Can you talk a little bit about the demand that you see for service to Martha's Vineyard that is currently not being met by the Steamship Authority?
So I would say that on average, we receive, and it's pretty consistent throughout the course of the year, but I would say we're seeing probably 2 to 3 requests per month per service. That being said, where we're not able to offer the service, we've had a couple of instances where the requests have, I don't want to say not gone away, but continued, where the requester doesn't seem to have any other option. Other than the handful of those, though, we direct them back to the steamship and different avenues to utilize the steamship. And in those instances, we have not heard back from the requester. So our assumption is that they've been able to make arrangements through the Steamship Authority in some fashion. The requests, though, for the vineyard are more than we are receiving for Nantucket. That, I would say if it's probably 2 to 3-fold more requests for the vineyard than Nantucket. Now, on the Nantucket side, even though we're receiving the requests, there's on a percentage basis, very few that actually come through, and we make the run with the service. And a lot of that has to do with the economic factors of it more than anything.
Yeah, I have a follow-on further. May I?
Yeah.
Thank you. So the question that, and this is a statement to the board and then a question to you. Truck revenue is very important to our year-round revenue base. And concern I would have would be the Steamship Authority giving away revenue as opposed to meeting new demand that we're unable to satisfy. And hence my question to you in terms of what you see as the business opportunity, as well as the scheduling issue particularly in the summer months of a very busy Vineyard Haven Harbor.
Sure.
So sorry. And one other thing, as well as the need to get permission from the town of Tisbury.
Sure. So the truck revenue question, I see the users of our service are going to be very specific. They're going to have a need that primarily what we've seen in Nantucket requires moving more than one unit at the same time at a very specific day. And because of the economics of it, aside from those instances, it doesn't pay for somebody to utilize the service. They go to the Steamship Authority. And quite honestly, we'll have calls for one unit move that we direct to the Steamship Authority because it just doesn't make sense for us to take a barge with one unit on it over. So from the revenue side, I don't see it having a material impact on the Steamship Authority's revenue. With respect to the scheduling, our thought and our intention would be to work with both management as well as the Vineyard Haven terminal to identify a scheduled slot where if on a Wednesday we have a need to bring over a barge and there's demand for it, that we're coming into a scheduled time where we're not conflicting with the Steamship Authority's own operations or even C Street's operations if they're running into the terminal at that time.
Can you pass that?
Good morning. Are you talking about bulk? Are you talking about things like mobile homes or just plain freight on a tractor trailer, or what are we talking about? Probably everything.
Good morning. Yeah, this is simply limited to freight trucks, so tractor trailer size trucks. The mobile homes are too large to fit over the Steamship Authority's transfer bridges, and the bulk aggregate, on the Vineyard, there is no Steamship Authority facility able to accommodate it, similar to how Nantucket's facility can. So this would truly be traffic that could otherwise travel on the Steamship Authority.
How do they make that decision? I mean, it's like the write-up says, they couldn't book a passage, at the time they wanted or something and therefore book with you or how do you collect your passengers?
So
They collect,
typically,
well,
quite honestly, I would say 95 to almost 100% of the inquiries we receive are directed to us by the Steamship Authority's reservation staff. So we typically you receive a call and they indicate that the reservation staff has told them that there is no space available on Steamship Authority vessels and that they should reach out to us as an alternative mode of transportation.
that's good to know. Thank you.
Have you talked with Packer about using their facility to load and unload? Because he handles barges all the time.
So we have previously spoken with Tisbury Towing and Ralph directly. His use of his own facility requires almost exclusive use of it. So the opportunity to utilize his facility is not there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, sorry.
Just, given that, I'd like to thank you for looking at the Vineyard as to be an alternative freight carrier. I know it's a big concern of Woods Hole that there is some relief to us, at least that we're not expanding our freight service from the Steamship Authority out of the Woods Hole terminal. I would urge the authority to find a way to make this work to the Vineyard. And I think we should be satisfied too that this is not taking away from our service, but basically a reflection of the increased freight that's going to the Vineyard, which perhaps not everyone on the Vineyard wants that increased traffic, but I'm more than happy to not have it come through Woods Hole.
So I think in terms of the staff, Jonah and his people have been very good to work with over the years, and fully expect that we'd be able to come up with some time slots that will work for both our operations and for his operations in terms of documents. Our concern right now is that over these winter months that we're going to be hard pressed at that facility as it is with our schedule and C streaks and the work the work that's going to be done. But we can find some windows there to work with him. And in terms of the revenue, we did change. You may recall the last time that the license was updated, we did change the revenue model so that way it was based on an average truck rate for the previous year, so per vehicle plus the dockage. So.
Very nice. So at this point, are you asking the board to approve the license just for the renewal for the Nantucket route, or are you asking for pre-authorization as well for the Vineyard if you work out the scheduling and operational issues?
Yeah. So
well, the way I presented it was would make sense at this point because there are a number of variables that we need to work out in Vineyard Haven and with Jonah. And I think you agree with that. Is that right, Jonah?
That's correct, Terry.
Okay. I don't want to put words in your mouth. But essentially what we're looking for is to renew Jonah's Nantucket license for a 3-year period till 2026. And just hold in advance the Martha's Vineyard route until we really figure out the details, because again, the operational challenges are simply, as Jonah mentioned, there's differences between the Nantucket terminal and the Vineyard Haven terminal.
When do you think you would come back?
Well, that's a good question. We have work to be done over there in the winter. And the schedule's changed too. We haven't gotten to that level of minutiae yet, if you will. So, I think, probably around the springtime, we could probably have a better sense as to, what the possibilities are. And then essentially what it would be another amendment to his license to expand the service.
From March, April.
Something like that, yeah.
Probably. So that I cleared out.
Yeah.
As opposed to what I read in diligent. What you're asking for is approval of extension of Nantucket, and you're tabling pending further study and review the Martha's Vineyard service. You're not asking us to deny it.
No, not at all. No, just tabling it for the time being while we work out these issues. That's correct.
Alternatively, if the board chooses to
Yeah.
want to approve that service, subject to staff working with Joan and 41 North on the particulars of the operating of the dockage arrangements. We're okay with it. We're okay with that as well.
Right, we could do it that way too. You could approve it conditionally that we work these things out.
And that we'll report that back to the board once that has been accomplished.
Well, if that's your motion, I'll second it.
I think I'd rather bifurcate that and just move with the Nantucket. I'd make a motion to that effect that we approve it.
Okay, is there a second?
I'm sorry, so.
He's gonna approve the recommendation that we modify the Nantucket or extend it to 2026 and hold off on the vineyard one and do that separately when they figure it out
So we're just tabling the vineyard part.
temporarily.
That's second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. All in favor by roll call?
Jeffrey, I.
John's eye.
Malcolm, I.
Randy, aye.
Kearney, I.
That is approved. Thank you, Jonah.
Thank you, John. Have a good day.
All right, so the next item we have is the response to a request from the Port Council at their October meeting, and then a subsequent request from the board. In the members packet, you'll find the Steamship Authority's trip activity reports for 2019 through 2023. And also included is a summary of the diverted trips from 2014 through 2023. The trip diversion summary illustrates that in 2023, there was a 10% decrease in the number of trips that diverted from Oak Bluffs to Vineyard Haven versus 2022. And the 275 trips that did divert does represent a 5% increase over the 9-year average, excluding the COVID year over that time period. But we've also have significantly more trips going into Oak Bluffs now than we did back in 2014, 15, and 16. So that was this information was just provided as a background and as a request that wanted to see what the diversions and cancellations look like. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Yes.
I don't know if this is the perfect time to bring it up or under old new business, but I'm just curious in terms of crew cancellations. I'd like to understand better kind of the call-in process and the decision-making and how we go out to reach substitute crew, or if we have substitute crew to reach out, especially in light of the cancellations that occurred this past weekend on the vineyard route. I want to understand the crew call-in process, how we go about addressing whether or not we're going to cancel or substitute the crew, in part to understand whether or not we're putting out schedules that we actually can meet with adequate staff.
So,
and I'll defer to the chair if he thinks that it's more appropriate to bring that up in the new business.
That's fine.
But it involves cancellations. So myself or Mark would be happy to answer.
So when a crew member calls in sick, they call in the ops crew center. I know before that they cannot report for duty due to illness. Over the weekend, we had 2 people call in, and we had 2 staff members that we could use, and one had already been used on the 1 watch and was not available for 2. The other one moved up, and so that left the vacancy on the containment. But we'll exhaust all folks that are available based on their hours, as they can work. We'll go through the entire call-in list before we make a decision to do a cancellation. It's not, it's not a 1 or 2 thing. Our guys in the center there will go through the entire list of who's available just to come in. It's just unfortunate that we had two people call in that day. We're looking at how we structure Christmas, also that Monday. And you know, hopefully we avoid that again, but we're extremely thin at positions. And you know, it's tough flooding now with getting people in. So but we do exhaust everything before we make a cancellation.
And I guess to follow up with that, I'm presuming I'd like to hear more at a future meeting of what is our planning in terms of attrition, in terms of upcoming retirements, given I presume a lot of our deck officers are nearing retirement age. What our plans are in not only recruiting, but if we're unable to recruit or retain, how will that impact our schedules moving forward?
Yeah, that's a big discussion about, you know, not just how we retain people, but attracting people, training people, the schedule we run, quality of life. That's probably an entire meeting right there, and we're going to go all that.
Thank you.
If I just may add to you know, the issue is, as Mike pointed out, we had a couple call-ins, but with the holiday weekend, once we were providing additional service on both routes because of the holidays, and which we typically do, and between that and the vacation request that we had gotten, we were stretched thin. But our fleet operations group does a fantastic job in terms of you know, mixing and matching the pieces, because there's certain people that are qualified to operate certain vessels and not other vessels. And so between fleet and our crews being willing to change on a last minute basis to say that they're going to be assigned to a different vessel, you know, they're to be commended for that. So
I mean, and, you know, I understand that, you know, I haven't looked over all the statistics of all the cancellation. I guess just as a member of the traveling public myself, I think most people would rather have fewer options that are to begin with in terms of schedule, but that there's a certainty they're going to run than adding additional vessels that then don't run. And I'm not saying that that's always going to be the case, but I think given just the industry itself and recruitment and retention, that we need to look not only at, we need to look at staffing in terms of our availability to continue to crew, including like if two people call in sick, if that cancels a vessel, that might not be a sustainable schedule.
Yeah. And when we go through that process, there's a lot of people involved. There's just not the ops center, Allison's involved, you know, there's a lot of vacation involved that morning. You know, and Allison will look at the allocations, and so that's why, you know, okay, on the two watch with the container, do we have enough space for people to move off that boat and not be left behind? We realize, you know, there's aggravation where you can't make a reservation or there's a long standby line. But we do want to take care of our customers to get home or to where they're going. And so she's heavily involved in that too. So it's, you know, it's marine ops, it's shoreside ops, it's fleet, there's a lot of people involved before we get to that decision to cancel. This is the last thing we ever want to do is cancel a boat.
And the good news is we did get everybody over that day.
Mm-hmm.
No one was left behind. They were displaced for periods of time, but everybody in the end got to where they need to be on both sides.
Well, I think, you know, I wanted to ask this question part because I think it's important for the public to hear what efforts you made.
I think that's an excellent thought, Peter. And one of the things, it seems to me that your question should go on a strategic plan of what we're going to be doing in the future and being ready for it. I think that's what a strategic plan is all about. I don't want to criticize the plan, but because I haven't seen it yet, I go crazy putting little stickers on boards and things like that. It's not my type. But any of it, you know, I think, you know, vessel replacement should be on there. You know, should we, when we're talking about a freight and we're talking about the fact that the vineyard in Nantucket can't handle, you know, additional freight like M North wants to do and things, or it's a problem that we should be looking at. Maybe should there be a dedicated freight dock, which ought to get, you know, things really hot over there. You can take care of that too. Oh yeah. But what I'm talking about is that you know, these are the things that we should be looking at, and as far as I'm concerned, in a strategic plan. I don't know what we're going to get. I mean, what I've read is pretty good, but I'm not a guy that looks for cultures and things like that. You know, I look for, you know, hammer and nails and you know, in the ditches and fixing the boats and whatever. So, enough said.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Mr. Jones. And I think we all agree with this. The amount of scrambling that everyone has to do, whether the people at the terminals, whether the people in management, whether the people on the boats, when these things happen, is extraordinary. The fact that we are able to handle and communicate at all during some of these Thanksgiving weekends, crunch time, is speaks well to many people in the organization. So thank you for that.
Okay, moving on.
Moving on, Allison, so I guess to begin with, I'd like to you know, acknowledge that the staff summary, when this was prepared, there was an earlier draft in which Mark Higgins had seen and was okay with, and there were some revisions to this, and I took the liberty to include him on this, and he was in terms of that. I just want, you know, he did see this final draft and afterwards, and I apologize for that. But and Allison, and whether you want to come up to so the staff want to update the board on their review of the daily vehicle capacity and vessel allocations. We looked at, in particular, July and August on the vineyard route, because it was noted by both ourselves and the public about the space that was previously identified as being unavailable for advanced booking was available at the time that the vessel actually left. In some cases, that unavailable space was utilized to transport vehicles, but on other trips, that may not have been the case. So accounting went back and queried the data from 2019 to 2023. And Allison, if you want to kind of walk through some of this.
Yeah, so basically what you're looking at there is the general allocations for each of our vessels for the vineyard route, and then the number of trips that they travel in a day. You're gonna read this right now. Thank you. And then the capacity during the week and on the weekends. And you can see that during the week, we have 1,400 trips a day, and on the weekends, because the Sankaty only runs spaces, sorry. And then on the weekends, it's 1,330 because the Sankaty doesn't run on the weekends. So. This one is dealing with the average car lengths for the vehicles during the 3 years, 2021, 2022, and 2023, as well as the cancellations, same day cancellations and same day making of reservations. You can see that same day cancellations were on the rise for a bit. The average car lengths, the average truck lengths are up there as well. And everything is in feet.
So the purpose of this was to show that on average, you know, the vehicles aren't getting any bigger than what we've transported the past 3
I was
years.
gonna ask you about that. Are we sure about that? Because I know I hear a lot at the docks about vehicles being bigger. And I have seen some statistics of different, I know my wife's RAV4 has gotten bigger. Are we sure that the vehicles have gotten bigger?
This was based on the actual data of the vehicles that travel. That were on the reservations, so.
Do we update them?
We have every year we add in the Ward's automotive data for the model year, so we have the length, the height, the width, the weight.
That goes into our database?
That goes into our database, yes.
Okay.
This is for the Martha's Vineyard route, July and August. This is for the governor. It shows you what the average allocations were for that boat for those years, as well as the number of freight trips that were designated for that time period. As you can see in 2021, there was 132 trips that were designated as freight. It went up to 363 in 2022, and then back down to 275 in 2023. There has been an increase in hazardous trips. The biggest jump was in 2022. It came down a little bit in 2023, but it's still at 47 hazardous trips. And it shows also the amount of cars that went onto those freight trips after they were designated as freight. So you can see in 2021, 935 cars were able to get onto those freight trips. And in 2023, 2,027 cars were able to get onto those freight trips, probably most likely at the terminal on the day of. And this is just showing a breakdown of the amount of freight trips by trip number. So you can see that in the afternoon trips, which is 210, 214, and so on, the number of freight trips increased in 2022 and 2023, but then they started going back down again in 2023. And then this is showing the number of cars that were carried on those freight designated trips.
So what happens is that we're moving out of vehicles from later trips onto these freight trips. And we end up with the domino effect going on, or we're taking on days that there's standby, we're taking vehicles from the standby line. So, obviously that's something that we're looking at in terms of what we can do to address this issue. And I think,
yeah, so right now we're excuse me, in the middle of the summer bulk process. So we are looking right now at the number of freight trips that we're putting in during the bulk process and trying to streamline those right now. We're also going to be, I'm also right now monitoring the trips. I'll go out and look out a certain amount of days, and any trips that I notice that could potentially be mixed loads that are flagged as freight trips, I will take those and make those mixed loads to allow the cars to book on those trips. Going forward, we're going to be creating a checklist. So during the bulk process, we know which trips to be flagging as freight, which ones not to be. And then after the bulks are run, which trips to go back and look at if there's nothing booked on it to make sure we flag them back as a mixed load. And also a checklist, so when the supervisors can actually start monitoring the trips as well, and they can know properly what goes on each boat, because unfortunately they've not been down to load boats, so they don't really understand the draft issues. So trying to educate them on those issues so they can better identify trips that can be made mixed. And MIS is working on developing a program to simplify the monitoring of trips. This will help us better utilize our tech space going forward.
Thanks. This MIS dashboard, when are we gonna get that to?
If you need to come up, people won't be able to hear you on Zoom.
Here.
He's coming up.
This requires involvement of our reservation system contractor.
Right.
Who's heavily involved in the website. So it's a minute of work. So I would anticipate a couple of months. I don't like to put a damn things, but you know, for us, I'll just make sure.
But so you'd expect in a couple of months we'll have this dashboard? I'm sorry.
It
Is that what you
depends.
said?
It depends on your definition of dashboard, how extensive.
Well, if we're programming something, there's gotta be a definition, right?
Yeah, I just don't want, I don't want to misinterpret your intent of the dashboard. I think this is a reporting tool that gives them an opportunity to identify a certain criteria as opposed to a formalized dashboard, which is how I interpret the question.
All right, so the reason for my question is the big issue, from the Martha's Vineyard traveling public point of view, is we can't get reservations and we got it to the boat, there's lots of space on the boat. Now, we've identified the governor taking trips, we've identified standby people, and all of a sudden space is available. We know that everybody wants to leave Martha's Vineyard in the morning and come back in the mid-afternoon. We got all that. But if the tools are gonna be working on the governor, the tools are gonna be the checklist and then the dashboard. My hope is that we have these things resolved in terms for the dreaded summertime.
I certainly would anticipate that time.
Okay.
The most problematic
Yeah.
vessel in terms of getting the allocation right is the motor vessel governor because of the swings that the trucks need to take to go around the center house and things like that. So that vessel won't be back on the run until middle of May, and I would fully expect it.
And there's also, once we put trucks on there, all of a sudden we lose 4 spaces.
Depends on the truck. If it's a 4-space truck, it could be up to 8 spaces we lose. And it's also to mention that a lot of it comes down to, even we look right now, we're looking at the Katama and what we could make mixed loads for the Katama or not. And that's a balancing act too, because that boat can go overdraft as well. So making sure that we have the right trucks, the amount of trucks on there where we can still maximize the car use versus either just leaving it as all trucks.
So it's a lot of moving pieces. It's the people managing the system, it's the reservation system itself, it's the balancing of weight as well as draft. Okay.
Don't forget, we're getting new boats, hopefully. In the spring. So there's just add another area.
There's the gods here.
Right? So, I mean, as you said, Jim, there's a lot of moving parts.
Thank you, Al.
Thank you. Okay, move this way.
Oh, that's right. Let me get another thousand.
We go.
Not psychic. I know, it's hard to read.
So next item we have is the 2024 reservation timeline, including the reservations and preferred Headstart programs. So. You can start or you want me to?
You can go.
All right, so in your packet, we included the staff summary that Angela Campbell has worked on. I see that she's listening in as well. So, but the differences that we have this year versus previous, you'll see that under the summer schedule dates that we've added this non-transferable Headstart. So when we're over on Nantucket, you may recall that there was some of our customers were asking about an opportunity for islanders to be able to get that be able to book their space before it opens up even more. So we looked at the programming for the websites and the reservation system, and we are going to be able to offer that the first 2 days of Headstart being for non-transferable preferred and excursion reservations. So only the people that truly would be traveling with them would be able to make those reservations. And then following those first 2 days, which typically the first day is the peak of all the activity anyways, and then it starts to die off. Following those 2 days, we'd be opening it up for additional Headstart that'd be transferable. And we've included the reminder that in order to be in the Headstart program, they need to be active participant in the 2024 Islander Preferred or Islander Excursion programs. The participants are allowed to make up to 10 reservations, either one-way or round trip, before we open up for the general public. Of those 10, no more than 5 of those reservations during Headstart may be booked in another person's name, or that 3 reservations could be transferable to a different person. So again, we're opening up, trying to provide some additional opportunities for island residents to be able to get that space. The first 2 days that we'd be opening, we'd be doing that. We are planning, and we're planning on having the Headstart opening on January 16th, starting January 16th. There's approximately 14,225 participants in the excursion program right now. They're split about 72% on the Vineyard and 28% for Nantucket. The preferred program, this is approximately almost 2,800 participants in that program. And we've included the qualifications for those programs in the staff summary. So, and then you want to go into the general openings?
Yeah, sure. So the general openings for the internet only for Nantucket will begin on January 23rd through January 29th of 2024. The reservation office will be extended to provide support to our internet and web customers. Office hours during that time period will be 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on January 23rd, 2024. Then 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. on January 24th through the 29th. General opening for the MV route will be January 30th through the February 5th. The reservations office will again have extended hours. For the first day, it'll be 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then on the 30th to February 5th, it'll be 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. We've also included the 2024 reservation only dates for the Vineyard route, as well. Also included are the dates that the Reservations Bureau will have extended hours for the Nantucket high-speed service, as well as reservation only days for the Vineyard. Active and approved participants in the 2024 Excursion and Preferred program are eligible to utilize the Blue Line, which is in a rolling 12. The Blue Line is 12 cars on a rolling basis on the property, or as many cars as we can fit on the property at one time, given what's going on. And that will be on the reservation only days. And that's also subject to the discretion of the agents, weather, cancellations, or any of those other situations that can pop up.
Questions, Mr. Malcolm?
Yeah, actually, this is a commendation. Allison, I appreciate it. Staff, I appreciate it. This new non-transferable Headstart is something that did come up at our Nantucket meeting from one of our members of the public. Basically, what this is going to do is going to let the people on the island who need reservations get in and get them first, rather than real estate agents or others who are picking them up for potential rental users. And I've got a lot of positive feedback from people on the island who appreciate what we're doing here. So thank you.
I have a question that I could, only because I'm asking it for everybody on the island. How are you going to track the non-transferables on our profile? Will be non-transferable, transferable, and regular. Will be 3 categories of tickets on my profile.
So the non-transferable ones on those first 2 days, the system won't allow you to change the name or to put or to designate them as being transferable. Then after that, you'll have the ability to click the box to make them transferable. And we'll have that. We have that ability. The system then monitors how many total reservations are made. So.
And we'll let you do that.
Thank you. Looks like we have the treasurer's report.
Okay. Bear with me here, it's been a while.
Put on your treasurer's hat.
We have the business summary for the month of September. So for passengers for the month of September, total number of passengers decreased by 8%, or over 25,000 passengers. The Vineyard route was down 6.1%, or 1,264 passengers. The Nantucket route was down 14.5%, with the traditional service being down 3.3%, and the high-speed service being down 21.5%. Year to date, the total number of passengers carried on both routes is down 0.2%, or 3,925 passengers versus the same period a year ago. Next illustrates the month-by-month comparison. Next, the total number of vehicles less than 20 foot carried on both routes for September was down 9.1% versus 2022, and that's 5,650 vehicles. The Vineyard route was down 9.6%, or just over 5,000 vehicles, with primarily the standard vehicles, but the excursions were down as well. On the Nantucket route, it was down 6.3%, or 621 vehicles. Primarily, again, the standard was down, but also the excursions. Year to date, the total number of vehicles less than 20 feet carried on both routes is down 1.0%, or 546 vehicles. And then next, the graph of showing it by month. The total number of trucks over 20 feet carried on both routes for September was down 4.3%, or 375 trucks. The Vineyard route was down 5.1% to 278, while the Nantucket route was down 3.1% to 97. Year to date, the total number of trucks carried on both routes is up 2.8%, or 2,077 vehicles. Next, on the graph. And then next, he has the number of trucks by route for September, and by the time of day and the direction, and the weekends. There's a drop off, obviously. The number of cars parked on both routes for September was down 10.0%, or 2,024 cars. The Vineyard route was down 5.5%, or 837, while the Nantucket route was down 23.1%, or 1,187 cars. Year to date, cars parked is down 0.8%, or just 1,061 cars. So I think one of the things you're seeing here in September that weather played a major role in the activity. We had 13 days of rain versus 7 the year before, and this seemed to be occurring on the weekends more than the weekdays as well. So that explains part of it. Next. So the trip summary, during September, the vessels ran a combined 2,337 trips, which is a decrease of 129, or 5.2% versus budget. The Vineyard route had 8 mechanicals, 16 weather, 40 for traffic demands, and 11 for crewing cancellations. On the Nantucket route, we had 10 trips canceled for mechanical, 53 for weather, 0 for traffic demands, and 14 for crewing. And then you'll see for the year to date, we've operated 18,750 trips through the end of September, which is a decrease of 568 versus what we had budgeted. And the crewing and the traffic accounts for the majority of those. And you'll see the percentage wise in terms of mechanical cancellations are pretty much on par with where we were this past year. The weather cancellations actually a little bit below. the traffic, is up slightly, and then the crewing, we didn't have the comparison for the previous year. So, on the financial side, the operating revenues of $14,221,000 was lower than budget by $919,000. Other income of $907,000 was lower than budget by $567,000. Our operating expenses of $11,095,000 was lower than budget by $270,000. In income deductions of $361,000 was higher than budget by $108,000. So the bottom line for September ends up in a net income of $3,672,000, which is lower than budget by $1,323,000. Mr. Rosen asked that I point out that previously, the previous month, we were up versus budget by $1,303,000. So between the 2 months, we're $20,000 within $20,000 between the 2 months. Year to date, net operating income of $22,128,000 is higher than budget by $7,590,000. Next. This illustrates the revenue where the decreases are, as pointed out, because of the vehicle traffic and the passenger traffic being down. It's not surprising to see those numbers are down. So our total operating and other income is down by 8.9% for the month, or $1,485,000. The other income is affected by it's a timing issue in terms of the grant revenue. We had gotten the grant revenue posted the previous month. So, and then year to date, we're 1.5% versus budget, or $1,762,000. Next. And the graph showing for September where our revenues are coming from, and in the year to date, where it's at. And the next. And in our operating expenses, it shows our maintenance was up 21.7% versus budget. The depreciation is because of we had anticipated the in terms of the depreciation, we had included in the budget originally the new vessels, as well as the website and the timing of the electric bus deliveries. So that's impacting that. But overall, for the month, we're 162,000 off, or 1.4%. And for the year to date through September, it's 5,829,000 below what we had estimated. Some of that is the fuel for the month of September. Our fuel expense was down, was only 16,000 below what our budget was, because fuel came in at $3.83 per gallon. We had budgeted $3.85 a gallon. Thank you, Mr. Lowell. And then for the year to date, however, we're $1,714,000 below budget for our fuel cost, as our average has been $3.37 a gallon. The budget on average has been $3.95 a gallon. So that's a big portion of that, that increase. And some of this we'll be seeing, as you see, we have some projects, the Vineyard Haven siding going on, and some of these other maintenance projects that we anticipate getting into this calendar year. So, and next graph of the operating expenses. As you'll see on pages 9 and 10, that our fund balances are remaining in good shape. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the board?
So, sorry, so Mark includes for October, traffic numbers were up 6.2% on passengers. Next. And then for vehicles on the Vineyard route, we're down 0.9% for vehicles, all total vehicles, and then on the Nantucket route, we're up 1.9%. So.
Thank you.
Questions from the board? Nope. Not hearing any.
Moving on to procurement. First item we have is a request for the members to authorize the general manager to award contract number 16-2023 dry dock and overhaul services for the MV Nantucket. The lowest eligible and responsible bidder, which was Steamship and Repair Company of New London, Connecticut, for a total contract price of $1,392,192. So the motor vessel Nantucket's is scheduled for shipyard February 24th through March 30th for a hull exam, rudder, propeller, shaft maintenance, bow thruster maintenance, coating maintenance on the underwater and superstructure areas, as well as a new UV water purification system. The budget estimate that we had for this item was just under $1,611,000, and that included a 10% contingency for the dry docking. The discrepancies in the amounts of the actual bid versus our budget related to the coatings and the hull plate replacements that we had. We were a little bit higher on what those estimates were going to be. So 14 shipyards were sent packages. We had two bids respond. So we're seeking authorization for the general manager to award contract 16-2023 dry dock and overhaul services for the MV Nantucket to the lowest eligible and responsible bidder, named Shipyard and Repair Company of New London, Connecticut, for a total contract price of $1,392,192.
Is there a motion to approve?
Yes, Madam Secretary.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor by roll call?
Jeffrey, I.
John's eye.
Malcolm, aye.
Randy, aye.
Tierney, I.
That is approved.
Thank you.
Looks like one more.
One more, yeah. So, we're seeking a request, vote of the members to authorize the general manager to award contract number 22-2023 for ultra low sulfur diesel, diesel fuel suitable for marine service. Its entirety to the lowest eligible and responsible bidder, which is Diesel Direct Inc. of Stoughton, Mass, for a total markup and delivery price of 0.089 cents per gallon. So in October, we issued an invitation for bids for the ultra low sulfur diesel that we use on the vessels. 14 bid packages were issued and 4 bidders ended up responding at the November 14th opening. Each bidder was to provide a total contract price, including all applicable taxes to be paid. It was based on the rack price for a gross ultra low sulfur diesel from the Providence as posted by Opus. And then there was a markup that they had per gallon in the transportation costs. So when you add in the markup and transportation cost, the first item, the rack price from Opus at the Providence terminal remains the same. So it's really just the markup per gallon and the transportation costs that we have. So in this case, as you'll see, we had bids that ranged from diesel direct at being 8.9 cents per gallon to 12 cents from one vendor, 13.5 cents from another, and then over 25 cents per gallon from another. So it's recommended that the members vote to authorize the general manager to award contract 22-2023 for ultra low sulfur diesel fuel suitable for marine service in its entirety to the lowest eligible responsible bidder, Diesel Direct Inc. of Stoughton, Mass, for a total markup and delivery price of 0.089 cents per gallon. And I should point out that Diesel Direct is our current supplier.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor by roll call?
Jeffrey, I.
John's eye.
Malcolm.
Randy, aye.
Tierney, I.
That is approved.
Thank you.
Is that all you have?
That's all I have.
Yeah.
It's enough.
Okay, is there any old or new business?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
I just would like to thank, after our discussion earlier, I'd like to thank the board and Mr. Jones for agreeing that in January, when we sit down again, we will discuss the issues raised by my appointing authority, whether the board can give a response as it deems appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other old or new business? No, not hearing any. How about public comment? Do we have public comment? Yes, sir, in the back.
Hi, my name is Kenneth Fellow from Woods Hole, and Mr. Davis started this meeting with saying that the steamship was totally transparent. If that was the case, why was it necessary for Martha's Vineyard Times to get Freedom of Information Act from the Board of Governors to hear what happened to this thing? I'm just curious about that.
You want to address that?
So I'll address it. So in terms of the transparency, we did release, as I said, over 4 hours of video showing what occurred on that day, as well as the documents that were compiled during the follow-up investigation. And the you know, as I mentioned, part of this is that we need to make sure that we provide our employees an opportunity to be on a confidential basis, be able to provide us with feedback in order to make our safety management system even better. And the issue is that if they felt that their information would be somehow compromised, that we feel that we may not be getting as much of a feedback from our crews, which the cornerstone of the safety management system is continual improvement. So we always need to be able to identify opportunities to correct things or to make things better. So
Why wasn't the Board of Governors notified?
We were.
Sorry. We did provide the board with a update as to what occurred on the date that happened.
Why did the Martha's Vineyard representative have to hear about it in this group?
Well, typically the public records requests are handled at a staff level, and we've made changes now that the board will be appraised of those on a going forward basis.
Thank you.
Additional public comment? Do we have anybody?
Yeah.
Oh.
Mr. Morris.
Mr. Morris, go ahead. You're muted, sir.
Yeah. Bob, you're still muted.
We can't hear you, Mr. Morris.
Just have to come back.
Is that the only, that's the
That's the
only,
only one.
That's the one.
Yeah. I can try to bring these opinions.
So he's muted.
you have to unmute
I'm
yourself.
I'm trying to bring you over as a panelist here, clicking ask to unmute, but you're still muted, so. I don't know what there's nothing I can do.
I don't have a suggestion.
Why don't you ask him to raise his hand if he can hear us?
His hand is raised.
Well, the hand's up there, but if, you know, if he waves it, then.
He clicked. Raised his hand when we went to public comment, so he can clearly hear what's going on. He just can't unmute himself.
Well,
Bob, why don't we follow up after this? We'll figure out what your Zoom issue is. I know you had this problem last month as well.
We'll follow up with you, Mr. Morris. Any other public comment? Nope, not hearing any, then I would like to entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss and approve the minutes of the authority's meeting in executive session on October 24th, 2023, and to review the authority's strategies with respect to pending litigation, security, real estate development, sorry, and collective bargaining negotiations, because a public discussion of these matters may have a detrimental effect on the authority's negotiating and bargaining positions. These matters include Captain Al Brox et al. Versus the Woods Hole Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket Steamship Authority et al. Civil action number 122 CV 10242. Deployment of cybersecurity devices. 530 Thomas P. Landers Road, Falmouth, Mass. Proposed renewal of the lease of the town of Falmouth for the Woods Hole parking lot. And anticipated and ongoing negotiations with Teamsters Union Local 59, SEIU Local 888, and MEBA's District Number 1 PCD. The public disclosure of any more information with respect to these matters would compromise the purposes for which the executive session is being called. After the conclusion of the executive session, we will not reconvene in public. Again, may I have a motion?
So moved.
second,
Motion's made and seconded. May I have a roll call, please?
Jeffrey, I.
Jones, aye.
Randy, aye.
Tierney, I.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Gentlemen,
Please.
for how long? Do I have to sign in and sign out again?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah, 5 minutes, Maura.
okay. Thanks.
Thank you.